So good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Monday morning webinar. I'm just going to adjust a few things here because we seem to be a little bit dark this morning on this webinar. So I'm just going to move some things around. That's it. And just to get a little bit more light shining. Beautiful. So I hope everyone's doing well. Thank you for everyone that's joining me live. Let's get started on this webinar. So today I'm talking about the 5 principles for success. Now, the 5 principles for success are NLP principles. They are principles that are taught in the practitioner training of NLP and have always been 5 principles that if you keep those principles in mind, no matter what it is that you're trying to do, whether it's in business, whether it's in personal life, whatever it is, you keep these 5 principles. They're pretty easy to remember. They're pretty simple. You will always end up having a better outcome than if you just basically fly blind. One of the things that I talk about quite often is the fact that for many, many years I was living on autopilot. And living on autopilot means that you have no intentions set, no idea of what's coming up next, no concepts in your head of what it is that you're wanting, no clarity, and things just happen the way they happen. Okay, so one of the things that I've been doing for the last 8.5 or so years is now living with intention. It doesn't mean everything always goes 100% the way you want, and that's okay, but it means that there is more likelihood of me getting the outcomes that I'm after, or being able to create those outcomes through the intentions that I set. So let's get started. Again, thank you for everyone who's joining us. I'm going to share my screen. And I will put the chat box up as well. So if anyone has any questions, please, please, please ask. So let's get this going. Okay, so as I said before, thank you for the 5 principles for success. And these are based on the NLP trainings that I do with people. So the very first principle, and this is paramount, is that you must know your outcome. A lot of people don't, and when I say know your outcome, you need to know your outcome with some form of clarity. So you need to know where you're going. When we jump in our car, we don't just drive aimlessly around. We have a point, a destination, an outcome to go to. So just like you jump in your car and let's say you're going somewhere where you don't know where you're going and you pop it into the GPS of your car, or if you've got a TomTom into the TomTom, and it directs you to where you're going. If you don't have an outcome, if you don't know where you want to go with some form of clarity. Now, sometimes we have an idea of an outcome. Sometimes we have a vague understanding of what we want. That is also okay. It's better to do that than nothing at all. But if you can sit with yourself and really understand, what is it that I really want? What is it that I'm really after? And when I say know your outcome, I don't just mean if this is in business, like, yes, you need to know your financial outcome, but you need to look beyond that and ask yourself, what more do I want? Because everything that we do, there's a reason, there's a passion behind everything that we do. So what is your purpose, I guess, for wanting what you're going after, for your success, for whatever it is that you're wanting? What is the outcome? What do you want? Because without that, you're basically your unconscious mind, and remembering that 95% of what we do every day is unconscious, your unconscious mind just doesn't know where to take you. So you need to start thinking about, what is it that you want? What outcome do you want? What are you striving for? What are you trying to achieve? What is it that you would like to have in your life? and then begin to put that down. Now, one of the things that I do, and I'm actually about to refine this because I've got papers and sticky notes everywhere, is that I write down my outcomes on vision boards. And yesterday I actually ordered a massive whiteboard, of which I'm going to put on the other side of my desk, so that my outcomes are there all the time, that remind me, but mostly remind my unconscious mind of what I'm striving for. Because if 95% of what we do in our day is unconscious, and 95% of what we filter into our psyche is unconscious, if we don't remind ourselves of what our outcomes are, we get to get distracted, and all other sorts of things begin to happen. So know your outcome, make sure you have it somewhere where you can see it, and remind yourself every day of this outcome. The first thing that you should do every single morning without fail, when you wake up in the morning, is remind yourself of what it is that you want, how you want your day to be, what it is that you want from your day, and know that you have an outcome for that day, and begin to get it going. Okay, so what do you want is the first one. What is it that you're going for? The second one, and this is something that is probably the most important one, and that is take action. So many people think that it is enough to set your goals, it is enough to put them out there energetically, and that they will just happen. We live in a physical world. If you don't take action towards what you want, and that's every day, and it can be little steps, little things that you do every day towards your outcome, nothing will ever change. Now, the other thing that tends to happen here is that when you take action, when you move, you might have obstacles in your way. If you stay still, if you stay where you are, there will never be any obstacles because you're not moving forward. But once you start moving forward, there might be obstacles in the way, and that's okay. You have to take action and keep taking consistent forward action when it comes to success. In fact, this afternoon I'm actually being interviewed for with someone, for me. They want to know about my thoughts on millionaire mindset. Now, one of the things that I can tell you about a millionaire mindset is that you have to consistently take action, no matter what obstacles get in the way, no matter how hard it can get sometimes, but without that consistent action of moving towards what you want every single day. And it doesn't have to be huge things, it can be little things. Nothing will change. Because one of the reasons why you are where you are at that time, or the reason why you're not getting the success that you want, or if you have an outcome and you're wanting success in that outcome, you need to take those steps towards creating it. And this is why it's so important for step one to know where you want to go. How do you know what action to take if you don't know where you're going? So in my 7 steps to living with intention, the first step is always becoming aware of where you are. And the second step is always becoming aware of where you want to go. And then the other 5 steps fill in all those gaps. And action being one of those steps, because you need to move forward. Nothing happens if nothing happens. And nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you're finding that you're in a place where you're not getting your goals, anyone who's on this webinar, please, if you have any questions, also for the guys on Facebook, if you want to jump over and register, it's in there. Jump over and then you can get a copy of this recording, or you can jump in and ask some questions. But if you don't know where you're going, if you don't know the steps that you need to take to get you there, you just stay exactly where you are. And then you must take those action steps. A lot of people ask me, how have I created the business that I have? And it's through consistent action taking. And believe you me, there are days when I get up and I can't be bothered. I don't want to have to do this today and do that today. But I just remember my outcome. I remember my reasons why I want to do things. And then I take the next step. Okay. So another important part of taking action is to plan it out. Okay. So once you get your outcome, work backwards. I am a really big advocate for reverse engineering everything. And so if you know what your outcome is, what are the steps? Plan them out from where you are right at this moment to where that outcome has been put together. What are the steps that you need to take? And like I said, they don't have to be massive, big steps. But if you don't take small, consistent steps every day, you don't get to where you want to be. Now, this is a really interesting one, having sensory acuity. And for the people that are not trained in NLP, I'll just give a very quick synopsis of what sensory acuity is. Sensory acuity is being able to notice subtle shifts and changes in things around you. So it's not about looking at someone and understanding how they actually feel or what's going on in their head. It's about having a look at someone or a situation and then seeing or becoming aware of the subtle changes that could have some sort of meaning. So when it comes to things like business success, a lot of clients and a lot of people reach out to me and say that they have a lot of problem when it comes to selling or to closing the sale. And one of the biggest things that I use when it comes to closing a sale with people and selling is I use my sensory acuity, meaning that I notice that when we go into a sales meeting with someone or I have a clarity call with someone, I begin to notice things about them. I begin to notice, you know, how they're holding their posture, how they're talking, how they're breathing, bits and pieces of looking at their faces, things like, you know, the tone of muscle tone in their faces. And I keep watching them so that if I say something that doesn't quite fit or or the sales conversation is not going in the direction that I want it to go, I notice if that person is being turned off. A lot of people talk and don't notice that the other person might have lost interest, is in another world, and they keep talking and it's getting nowhere. So what you want to be doing, why sensory acuity is so important, and this is not just around a person, it's also around situations. If you implement something towards your outcome and it's not going the right way, you need to be able to pick up very quickly that it's not going in the right direction, so that you need to pivot very quickly and change what you're doing. If you're in a sales call, if you're talking to someone, even in a conversation, a relationship with someone close to you, family, friends, you need to be aware of the subtle changes that that person has. And you need to be aware whether that subtle change that they have is progressing where you want to go or if they're detaching from where you want to go. So really important to stop focusing on you when you're talking to someone, regardless of whether it's business or personal. Stop focusing on what you're saying. Stop focusing on what do I say next? How do I turn this around? What do I do next? Which is what we tend to do, and listen and watch and pick up those subtle changes that tell you, yes, I'm headed in the right direction, or no, I'm not headed in the right direction. And this one is really important. I have watched people have conversations with other people and they've completely lost them, and they are so engrossed in what they have to say and what they feel they need to say and what needs to be said next, that they have completely lost them. So really important to have sensory acuity. Okay, so be aware of the people around you, what changes they have made, and either positive or not positive, it doesn't matter. It's just about you being aware, and never assume that you know what someone is thinking inside their mind when they have a certain facial expression, or they have a certain mannerism or a certain way of moving, because you don't, unless you know that person really well and can actually say that when that person has a particular look or does something with their eyes, you know exactly what it means. You cannot assume. So this is about just being aware. And sometimes if someone, you know, if you are having communication with someone, or you're in a sales talk and someone has a subtle movement and you're not sure what it is, you just ask them, did that make sense to you? Do you relate to that, whatever it is, so that you know you're on the right track. And also in situations, if something is happening outside of yourself and you're not sure whether what you're doing is taking you to that final outcome, to where you want to go, you need to sit back and you need to reevaluate what's going on and really understand, is this going the right way or is this not? And do I need to pivot and change things? And unfortunately, what a lot of people do is that they get so stuck. And the next one we're going to talk a little bit about this. They get so stuck in where they think that things should be, or the way things should be going, that they never get to that outcome, because they just won't allow themselves to have the sensory acuity to notice that things are not going the way they want to, and then they need to pivot. Of course, if you notice that things are going the way you want to, well, then you continue on that path. But without being aware of it, you're not going to know where you're going. And check your progress all the time. Check in with your progress. Don't just, you know, keep going on a tangent of talking or doing what you're doing to get to that outcome, you know, taking those steps and not checking where you are right now. I have seen people get caught up in so many things that they believe are good for them without checking their progress, and they get to the end of it and find that they've gotten nowhere. Okay, because what works for someone else doesn't necessarily work for you. So it's so important that you're constantly becoming aware of what's going on around you and your progress, and if you're headed down the right track. And of course, if you find you're not, you need to have behavioral flexibility. So behavioral flexibility is being able to pivot quickly and not get caught in those feelings of, oh, I did the wrong thing, I haven't done what I'm meant to do, this is the way it's meant to be done, this is the way that expert told me, this is how it should be. There is nothing worse than being stuck in that unflexible stubbornness. And I know this really well because I used to be one of these people, and actually flexibility is one of my 7 steps to living with intention. You need to pivot. You need to pick yourself up quickly. You know, there is no such thing as failure, only feedback. Again, that is what we call a presupposition or an assumption of NLP. And another one is that the person with the most flexibility controls the situation. So with all this COVID that went on, what I have noticed with both my clients, with people that have reached out, with colleagues that have worked in my industry for years, is that the ones that have not been able to actually move forward in their business during this COVID-19 are the ones that have not had the behavioral flexibility and have not been able to pivot, jump online, have been stubborn, have thought that they can't, which you know, I don't believe in that word, can't get online, that they can't work online, that things can't be done online. and they've had no behavioral flexibility whatsoever, and that has actually created them to become stagnant in their businesses. So when it comes to behavioral flexibility, it's about how quick can you jump out of it? How quick can you pivot out? How quick can you get yourself out of those thinking patterns that you sit there going, oh, I'm doing the wrong thing. If you become aware of something that's not going right, it's important that instead of wallowing or sitting in that and saying, oh, I can never get things right, that you quickly get yourself out of it and remember that it's feedback. You've just learned something that doesn't work. You're not going to make that mistake again. What do I need to do instead? And quickly change to something else. Okay, and the world is so rapidly changing at the moment on so many levels that you must have flexible behavior at the moment. Flexible thinking, flexible behavior, or you will be left behind and you will get stuck. So really important. So you can see that these steps all interweave one into the other. And this one here at times can be so important. And there are, we've seen it everywhere, where people have had to jump out of what they've been doing for years and years in their businesses, in their relationships. We Zoom now. I Zoom and FaceTime with my grandchildren every single week. So, that's something that we've had to learn to do that's different. We don't sit here and worry or get upset about it. And it can get very upsetting. And I'm not saying that I don't get upset about this. Of course I do. It does upset me that I can't see my grandchildren, but I have changed my behavior. I've become flexible and thought, well, what is the best thing that I can do in this situation? And the same goes with any success that you want in your life. What is the best thing that I can do? But if you stay stuck in thinking that things can only be done a certain way and you become completely inflexible, what will happen, okay, is that you will just stay where you are and you will not be able to move forward. And one of the best stories I can tell you about this is about a lady who I did some work with around her marriage, and she found that what she needed to do was to become flexible in her marriage because she just had in her head a certain way that she thought her husband needed to be, and he wasn't that way. He was just him. And she was really allowing that to get to her. And when she allowed herself to have some flexibility and to, notice that he's just being him, that this idea of who she thought a partner or a husband should be was some idea that she had brought up with herself from, being a child, it actually allowed them to get back into a really lovely relationship. So have a think about how you can have more behavioral flexibility when it is to you becoming, moving forward, towards your outcomes. And then the last one, and this is a really interesting one, is to operate from a physiology and a psychology of excellence, okay? So first I'm going to talk about the physiology. Now, physiology is all about how you hold your body. Okay, so could you imagine if I was doing this webinar and slumped here like this and talking to you guys like that and looking all over the place? It wouldn't be a great physiology of connection with anyone, would it? So whenever you're working towards your outcome, whether people can see you or not, and this is really, really important to understand, when you hold yourself up, when you allow yourself to hold your shoulders back and head high, you feel better. It also allows for much greater energy movement within your body. A lot of the live videos that I do now, I actually do them standing up. When you go into a meeting with someone, when you're having a conversation with someone, you work better. It does. I mean, you can just try it right now. When you work with your shoulders back, head held high, you come from a physiology of excellence. It makes you feel better, and it allows you to present. It creates that behavior of wanting to do more. You feel better about yourself. You feel more confident. And it then will allow you to perform at a much, much higher level, because you're going to do it unconsciously. And this is something I'd love you all to try, is to just, you know, just hunch over a little bit and see how that feels as compared to, you know, putting your shoulders back and taking those steps with that confidence, with taking those steps coming from feeling like you're already a winner. The physiology part is the stories you're telling yourself in your head. This is so important. Any goal that you strive for, any outcome that you're looking for, anything that you're trying to achieve, if you keep telling yourself, this isn't going to happen, this isn't going to work out, I'm not going to get this outcome, what happens is you come from, and this is unconsciously, you come from that mindset of this is not going to happen. And without you even realizing, because you do it unconsciously, you will start to say and behave in ways where you will prove your unconscious mind right. So whether it is business, again, whether it's personal, relationships, if you go into a conversation with someone thinking, this isn't worth it, nothing ever gets resolved, all we're going to do is argue again, your unconscious mind enjoys nothing better than proving you right. So what happens is that without you actually realizing consciously, you will say things to make that happen. You will miss things that you need to hear, and you will actually create a self-fulfilling prophecy, because our unconscious mind filters what we hear according to what it believes we want to know. So if anything that you strive for, anything that you're going for, if you do not come from that physiology, the way you hold your body, the way you present yourself, and that psychology, the words you're telling yourself of excellence, that is going to happen, that's where you're going, that's how you're going to get there, it won't happen, because it's not that it won't happen, it's just that the unconscious mind will filter what you see and hear according to what it believes you want. And if you're telling yourself things like, this isn't going to work, it won't. So this was a really big one for me to understand, that my physiology and my psychology of what I was thinking was creating what was going to happen next has actually changed a lot of things. Because I always check in, no matter what it is, whether it's in business or whether it's in personal, always check in with how am I holding and presenting myself, and how are the thoughts in my head about this situation, and work on those first before I go into anything that I do. So really important to think about that too. Okay, guys, so that is it for today. Again, thank you for watching. If you would like to contact me, please do so either through the email that you get with this recording, or at admin@sandramadafferi.com.au. You can find me on most social media platforms, YouTube, lots and lots of freebies on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn and Instagram under Sandra Madafferi. All you need to do is pop in my name and I will come up with lots of things in there. I do at the moment I have got a VIP group, and applications are now opened for that VIP mastermind group. The reason for that is that I have just taken a whole lot of people through their first 12 months of creating the business that they want, and now applications are opened. I don't overextend myself in that group to have too many people in there. So if this is something that you're after, if you would like some help, no problem, Jody, I'm glad you liked it. If you would like some help with anything at all to do with your business or personal life, and how you can come from a more successful part of you, how you can create a better mindset, please, please, please do reach out. So as soon as I can, for anyone who's watching this, I'm not sure where that Millionaire Mindset interview is going to be today. I'm going to try and see if I can get a copy of it and pop it onto my page. But you can see that a lot of mindset comes from keeping things like these 5 principles for success and a few other things in mind. So thank you for watching, guys. I look forward to seeing you next week, where we actually, I remember what we're doing next week. We're going to do the 9 keys to an achievable outcome. Absolutely, absolutely brilliant keys that if you keep these in mind when you set your outcomes, you're more likely to make them happen. Thanks for watching, everyone, guys. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye for now. Thanks for jumping on, everyone who's on here. Bye.